Okay, good evening, everyone.
Good evening, sir.
Evening, sir.
Yeah, what was the last discussion? We were discussing Angular
Material.
material.
Yeah.
Yeah, we will start the last topic of our training. The last thing is how to use NgRx for state management in one Angular application. Okay, first of all, let's understand what is the need of state management, why state management is required to manage the state of our Angular application, what is the library that we use, what all components or what all parts of that library we use. Okay, what is the need of state management? State is nothing but data. Ideally, when we don't use any state management library in Angular application, where we manage the state, we manage the state in component or in service, right? Yes. For smaller applications, it is fine to use components and services for application state management. If your application is smaller, we can use component or service to manage the state of our application. But it would become difficult to manage the application state when our application gets complex and big. When the application becomes bigger and bigger, when the application grows, when the application becomes very complex, that time we are not supposed to maintain the data in component and service. When you maintain the data in component, we already know it is very difficult to share the data from one component to another component. Though we have options to do that, it is not that easy to share data from one component to another component, because all the time the component who wants to send the data and the component who wants to receive the data will not be sibling or will not be parent child, immediate parent, immediate child. It won't be all the time. In that case, what state management libraries they say, there is a library whose name is NgRx. NgRx is a library. This NgRx library says, hey, you don't manage your data in your component and service. You give that data to me, I will manage the data for you. Now, Angular application is a different thing. NgRx is a different thing. The data will be maintained in NgRx. Any Angular component wants the data, will go and fetch the data from NgRx. Any component wants to update the data, they will go and talk to NgRx. The components, they don't have to talk to each other for data. Any component wants data, they will go and talk to NgRx. NgRx is the single place where the data is maintained. What NgRx is and how it helps? It helps developers to build large scale applications with heavy data communications while sustaining high application performance. When we maintain the data out of our Angular component, when we maintain the data in NgRx, no matter how big the project is, no matter how large the application is, we won't face any problem of data transfer from one component to another component, because data will not be maintained in one component. It will be there at a common place in NgRx. Whoever wants the data, they will directly go and talk to NgRx. And it will also maintain the performance. It is not like when we maintain the data in NgRx, the performance will be degraded. No, not like that. NgRx provides a way to maintain the data in your Angular application as a single source of truth. There is only a single source of truth. Whoever wants the data, go and get the data from the same place. You want to update the data, go and update there. Instead of injecting the service everywhere and managing the communication between them, NgRx manages your application from one singular source. In NgRx, what happens? There will be a UI. Let's say we are talking about employee CRUD example. If we are talking about employee CRUD example, what happens? What happens actually? This is our UI. UI. In UI, we show a table. In the table, there will be array of employees. List of employees will be shown in UI in the form of table. And there will be a form. Using the form, people can add new employee, right? People can add new employee. People can add new employee. People can list the employee in a table. So when we see a list of employees, when we see a list of employees, from where that data come to render the table, UI needs data. So from where UI gets the data?
API.
UI gets the data from store. Yeah. Anyway, the data will come from API. Once the data is fetched from API, where the data will be? Not in component, not in service. The data will be there in store, NgRx store. Where the data will be?
Yeah, in store.
NgRx.
NgRx store. So UI, whatever data it shows, will get the data from where? From store.
Store.
Store will give the data to UI. UI will show the data. One table is there and one form is there. Suppose in the form, user will fill the data and will click on save. When user clicks on save, what happens? UI cannot directly go and update the store data. Please understand. UI can fetch the data from store and display, but UI cannot directly go and update the data in store. It's not possible. What UI will do in that case, UI will trigger action. What UI will do?
Trigger action.
UI triggers action. What is action? Add employee is one action. Delete employee is one action. Edit employee is one action. All these are one action. All these are one action. Once the action is triggered, for every action, there will be a reducer. For every action, there will be a reducer. There will be a reducer. What is reducer? A reducer is a function which takes the action information. Based on the action information, it will update the data. Based on the action information, it will update the data, and that updated data will be stored in store. Once the data is updated in store, again store will inform UI that new data has come. So UI will print the new data again. Did you understand the flow?
Sir,
Can
here
you?
we are not hitting the API and database.
That part is not here in this picture. Actually, that will be also there. That will be also there. If that portion is there, we have to understand this. What happens? Component component is there. Component gets the data from NgRx. Component will trigger the action. Action will trigger effect. Effect will go and fetch the data from service. Will give it to action. Action will trigger the reducer. Reducer will update the store. When store is updated, the data will go to component. This is the flow when API call is involved. If API call is not there, we are only maintaining the data, then this emails. If API call is involved, then this emails.
That story is global, or is it only
That
for
store
the?
is global for the whole application. That store is global for the whole application. Any component can go and fetch the data from store. Yeah.
So this
So
NGRX is it session is it session specific or it's applicable to all the user in the application? Let's say I log in one application from my location. You log in the same application from your location. So if I update or if I do any action, the NGRX applicable to my from my browser, or it affect your browser as well?
it
Let's say
is.
I update one record from here. So it's
Yes.
updated in the database, right? So at the same time, will you be able to see it from the database, or you need to refresh again?
We need to refresh. We need to refresh. It is browser specific. It is user specific. So we have to fetch the data again from API and keep it in NgRx store. Then only I should see the updated data.
So then why we need the NGRX here? Why we need to maintain the session? State.
So when we maintain the data in NgRx, we don't have to pass the data from one component to another component, right? That challenge we can avoid. Nothing else. It will not help for anything else.
Okay, so I was thinking in a different way. I was thinking like the railway booking. So I see there is, let's say, 10 tickets available. By the time I process the payment, I see all are gone. So I was
Hmm.
thinking maybe something is managed from the application, maybe state management or something. So that is telling me that those all seats are gone.
No. So we cannot relate with that. This picture will give you a better picture. See, we have component. We have component A. This is employee CRUD component. This is employee add component. This is employee list component. What happens? All these components on the page load, what will happen? One API will be hit. The API name is get all employees. That get all employees will give all the data or 10 employees. That 10 employees will come to service. Service will give the data to NGRX effect. NGRX effect will store the data in NGRX. So NGRX in NGRX data is there means it is there only in local storage. I mean, it's there only with one user. So on application load, there are 10 employees, but those 10 employees are neither stored in component nor stored in service. Where they are stored? They are stored in NGRX store. What is the benefit of storing the data in NgRx store? The benefit is if there are 10 components, they need the same data. They don't have to inject the service 10 times. They will just go and ask NgRx, hey, I need some data. And every component who needs that data They need not be sibling, they need not be parent, they need not be child. Whoever wants data, they can go and fetch that data from NgRx store. That is the only benefit of state management or NgRx. Hope this picture gives you a clear idea, more idea, right? Yeah. Anyway, that data will be fetched from API. Once we fetch that data from API, rather than storing that data either in service or in component, we are storing the data at a place called NgRx store. Yes. When we talk about NgRx, there are five parts. One is store. Store. What is store? Store is the area where we maintain the data. Second thing is reducer. What is reducer? Reducer is a function. Reducer is a function which updates the store data. Then action. What is action? Add employee is one action. Edit employee is one action. Delete employee is one action. What is selectors? Selector is a function used for obtaining a part of the state from the store. Store, a store will have lot of things. A store can have employee data, student data, products data, user data. A store can have a lot of things. Using selectors, we can pick only one information from the store. I want user information. Somebody else wants employee information. Somebody else wants product information. Using selectors, we can obtain a part of the state. Effects. Effects is a mechanism that listen for dispatched actions in an observable stream, processes the server response, and returns new actions either immediately or asynchronously to the reducer to change the state. This effect will come into picture only if there is API call. If there is no API call, only store reducer action should be enough. Store reducer action selector. These four things should be enough if there is no API call. If there is API call, this effect will come into picture. Yeah. So if we want to develop one application where we don't want to interact with API, only static data, we will play with static data. Then this picture is enough. So initially in store, we will have 5 employees. Store will have 5 employees. Store will give the data to UI. UI will display a table with 5 rows. In UI, there will be a form using which user can add another employee. And when user clicks on add employee button, one action will be triggered. The action name is add employee. For every action, there will be a reducer. Reducer is a function which will update the state. Once reducer updates the state in store, store will give the new data to UI again. So this is a cyclic process. If we have to fetch data from API, so when application loads, service will go and hit the API. API will respond with some data. That data will come to service. Service will give the data to NgRx effect. Effect will store the data in NgRx store. From NgRx store, every component can fetch the data. And again, if they want to update, they will trigger action to update the data. So this is another image. If there is a store, from store, a component can use the selector to fetch the data from store. Store contains many things. Using selector, The component will fetch the data and will render here. Component name is employee list, add employee. From component, we will always trigger action. If it is a plain action, action will go to reducer. Reducer will update store. But for the action, if there is one API call involved, if there is API call involved, the action will call effect. Effect will call service. Service will go and fetch the data from database. Data will come to service. Data goes to effect. Effect gives the data to action. Action will call reducer. Reducer will update store. If store is updated, selector will be executed. Selector will give a partial data to component. Okay.
So what is the difference between local store and NgRx store?
Local store means
In the
com-
image, the image in the left corner.
this one, this one.
Yes.
This is just a hint that NgRx will store the data in your local browser. This is just a hint.
Okay.
Yeah. So this picture says that in NgRx something is there in it means it is temporary. It is not permanent data, right? It's not uh, persisted.
All the data are stored in the browser level, right?
Yes, yes, correct. If you refresh, it will be gone. Hmm? Yeah. Now we'll develop one application. Then only we will get more idea. To create one NGRX example, to create one NGRX example, what I'll do, I'll create a new project. Okay, there is already one example to do up with NGRX. I'll explain step by step. Don't worry. Even though this is one existing project, I'll make sure you understand each and everything. If you want to create one NGRX example, what are the things we have to follow? Point one, we have to install NgRx store in the project. We have to create one fresh Angular project. In fresh Angular project, we have to install NgRx store. So here what is done, you can see there are two to-dos. First to-do is completed. Second to-do is not completed. If I click on toggle, it is completed. I can add another to-do 3. It gets added. Toggle, it is toggled. Toggle, it is toggled. So where is this data stored? This data is stored at browser level. If I click reload, the data is gone. Yes. So what is the first thing? First thing is in one Angular application, if you want to use NGRX, the very first thing is install NGRX store in the project. To install NGRX store, we can run either one of these three commands: ng add NGRX store, ng add NGRX store latest, ng add NGRX store a particular version. So if your Angular application is 14, do this. Anything should be fine. Then second point, once NgRx store is installed in our project, we will create folders and files manually for store, actions, reducers, and components. So let me go to my code base. What do you want? You want me to delete all these files and create from the scratch or explain the existing things?
Yeah, existing is fine. Existing is correct.
Uh-huh. Existing is fine, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, yes.
Okay. So create folders and files manually. Create folders and files manually for store, action, reducers, and components. First, I'll create a folder called store. Inside store folder, I'll create a file store.ts. So this is my store folder. This is my store folder. In store folder, there is a file called store.ts. Store, this is store folder. This is store file. In this store, first thing, how to create a store. Store means we know what is store. Store is the place where we maintain the data. So it's a store. We say bookstore, vehicle store, anything. So to create a store, call the reducer and collect the data returned by reducer. To create the store, we have to call a reducer and we have to collect the data returned by the reducer function. If you look at the store file, it is importing store module from NgRx store. This is predefined. Import root reducer from reducers. So this is a user defined file. To create a store, we need a reducer. And you can see only one line of code is enough to create a store. I'm writing const my store. My store is a user defined variable is equal to store module dot for root reducer. I'm calling root reducer and this root reducer will return me one store. One store means technically one array with two objects. Ah, why one array with two objects? When I load the page, I see two objects. So after this store file will be executed, my store variable will have one array with two objects. How it gets? It calls root reducer. Whatever root reducer returns, that comes to my store variable. Only one line of code. The code here is store module dot for root. It will give you a store. Any question in this file?
Yes. First is how can we create the store file?
How can we?
Create store file.
We have to create manually
Store.ts, right?
store.ts file. Huh?
Okay. Second question. For each store, do we require the new reducer file?
One store for one Angular application.
One store file. You say.
One store file for one Angular application. Maybe your store, if you want to maintain many things, your store can look like this. My store is equal to employees colon area of employees, students colon area of students,
Okay.
users colon area of users. So this is one store. A store can be a simple number, can be a simple string, can be one object, can be one array. A store
Okay.
can be anything. But one store for one Angular application.
Okay.
Yeah. So first thing, create a store folder, create a store.ts file. Inside store.ts file, add line number 4, your store is ready. Is it clear?
Yes.
Yeah. But store is calling reducer function. What is reducer? These all are technical terms. Don't think much. Okay. Store is calling root reducer function. Store is calling root reducer function to create store. What is root reducer? It's coming from this file. There is a folder called reducers and there is a file called reducers. File name can be anything, folder name can be anything. Just for our understanding, I'm using these names. No thumb rule. Okay, so this is the reducer. What is the reducer? A reducer is a plain function. A reducer is a plain function which will take action information and data information, will update the state. Please understand what we have done in reducer file. In reducer file, we have initial state. Initial state has one array with two objects. Then there is a function. The function name is to-do's reducer. A reducer is nothing but a simple JavaScript function which takes two things. One is the state information, one is the action information, and it will update the store based on the action. If you have lot of reducer, one is to do reducer. You can have another reducer also, function employee reducer. Employee reducer, we can have lot of reducers. We can have lot of reducers. One is to do reducer, one is employee reducer, one is student reducer. To combine all of them, we will write. To combine all of them, we will write one object. The object name is root reducer. This name can be anything else also. If you have more than one reducer in your Angular application, definitely there will be many reducer. When you have many reducer in one Angular application, combine all of them using one object and call that as root reducer or main reducer. Any question here? I can call it as reducer 2. We can have n number of reducers. Is it clear? Hmm?
Could you please show how the store files is mapped to the component?
Yeah, that also. Did you understand what is the code that is written in store?
Yes.
Yeah. Did you understand the
Yes,
reducer?
sir.
In
Yes, sir.
reducer, we have some initial data. That initial data, that initial data is going to do reducer. To do any reducer will always take state data and action data. There is a if else condition written. If action dot type is add to do, if action dot type is add to do, then in this state add another object. If it is toggle to do, change the true to false. If it is delete to do, delete that. Otherwise, return the default state. Do you understand what is written in this to-do's reducer? What is a reducer? A reducer is a JavaScript function. What it takes as argument?
Action.
State and action.
State and action.
What it returns?
Updated state.
Updated state. Very good. The store file is using which reducer to create the store?
Root reducer.
Root reducer. What is root reducer?
Combination
Root
of multiple
reducer
reducer.
is a combination of multiple reducers. Then store is done, reducer is done. Then actions. Go to actions file, actions folder, actions.ts. What is action? If you look at here, your reducer your reducer is thinking action will be one object. That is why your reducer is writing action dot type. So the reducer is expecting action to be one object, and action object should have a type field. To create that kind of structure, we have actions file, actions.ts. In actions.ts, what we have done, we have lot of functions. These are called action creators. The function name is add to do. It takes just a string, returns one object. In that object, there is a type, there is some payload. There is another action called a delete to do. It takes only one ID and returns one object. Type is delete to do, payload is ID. There is one more action creator whose name is toggle to do. It takes ID and returns one object with type toggle to do, payload ID. Any question what is actions.ts? What is the logic written here?
No, sir.
Are we clear? Store, reducer, and actions.
Yes.
Okay.
Go and reduce the file. Or delete, do we have delete?
No, delete is not calling action. Action will be called by component. Huh?
Okay.
Yeah. So these three things are done. Then we have to create components. What all components we need? To-do list, add to do. So create these two components. ng generate component to-do list, ng generate component add to do. Yeah. If we go to to-do list, what I'll do, to-do list and add to do, maybe I can delete and do it again if you want. This is add to do. This is to-do list. This is to-do list. This is to-do list. This is to-do list. This is add to do. This is add to do. Okay. So to-do list and add to do, I'll explain from the scratch. To-do list. I'll show you to-do list. This is to-do list, to-do list. Yeah. So when we use store, where is the data available?
Browser, in our browser
NgRx store.
store.
In store, right?
Store, yeah.
Yeah, in store. So in to-do list.html, what are we doing? We are saying that there is a variable called all to dos. This all to dos has data at return show. So how we will set the data to all to dos? Let's declare a variable all to dos. All to dos will be any array. Then now what we will do? From where we will fetch the data and will store into this variable? From store we
Store.
will fetch the data. To fetch the data from store, we'll go to ng on init. In ng on init, we will say, first of all, we have to inject the store to this component. So in constructor, private store equal to store. Private store colon store. This capital store is predefined word. This small store is user defined word. Now from this store, we will fetch the data. To fetch the data from store, this dot store dot subscribe, this dot store dot subscribe, we will get the store. From store, from store, now let me print, simply let me print the store, console.log store. If I print the store here, let's see what is there in store. Delete my to do. Maybe I'll comment everything. Now, should to do list component interface and join into on init. On init implements on init ng on init. Now we will see what is there in store. To print what is there in store, let's go to console. This is my store. Store has a reducer, to do's reducer. So what I'll do, I'll say this dot all to do's is equal to store dot to do's reducer. I'll just use here any, and this will go to all to do's. When it goes to all to do's, I should be able to print at least in to do list now. Now it is calling delete my to do and toggle my to do. So I'll write these two methods only to avoid syntax errors. Delete my to do and delete my to do and toggle my to do. These are my two functions. So it will take one ID. This will take one ID just to avoid the syntax errors. Now with this, I should be able to display the to-dos. You see, I'm able to display the to-dos. The component who wants to read the data from store will have to do this much. What the component has to do? Inject store, then subscribe the store. Is it clear? Is it clear?
Yes.
Yes. Now, when we click on this delete, one to do should be deleted. When we click on toggle, a to do should be toggled. To achieve this functionality, in to do list component, we have two functions: delete my to do, toggle my to do, and we are passing to do ID. So when this function is called, I want to delete one to do from the store. If you want to do anything with the store, you have to dispatch action. To dispatch action, what we will do here? Let's create one action object. Const action object is equal to, there is one action creator called delete to do. Let me call delete to do method by passing the ID. So when I call this method, it will go to action file. That action file will return me one object. That object I have to dispatch. To dispatch this dot store dot dispatch action object. Sometimes, if it is pretty simple, you don't want to call a function, you can create the action object here only. Const action object is equal to, you can do it here only. Action object will have two information. One is type. Type is toggle to do. ID is ID. Then this dot store dot dispatch action object. There are two options. If creating the action object is pretty simple, do it here only. If it is complex, call the method that is written in action file. Here. Is it clear? Hmm? Now what happens? Whenever we click on toggle or delete, first it will go to, if I click on delete, if I click on add to do 3, fine, forget about this. I'll click on toggle for to do 3. When I click on toggle, control will go to to-do list. To-do list, toggle my to-do function. Here, are we calling any action creator or we are creating the action object here only?
Creating action object here only.
After this line, this is how the action object is looking like. Action object has ID and type. Then this dot store dot dispatch, I'm dispatching this action. If an action is dispatched, where it will go? It will go to reducer. It will go to reducer. In reducer, what is state? State has 3. What is action? Action is toggle to do. So it will go to toggle to do section. In toggle to do, it will just change the completed variable value from true to false, false to true. Once it is changed, the store is updated. The person who is subscribing to store will be called again. Who is subscribing to store? To-do list is subscribing. So again, it will come here. There is some error. Action.payload.id. Okay. So it should not be action.id. It should be action.payload.id. Payload, there should be payload, then ID. It should be like this. Or else better you call toggle to do function by passing ID. So what will happen when we click on toggle button? It comes here. It is calling the action creator. It will go to action creator. It will return this object. It will go to to-do list again. In to-do list, this is action object. Action object has type and payload. It is dispatching the action. When the action is dispatched, it will go to reducer. In reducer, this is the initial state. This is the previous state. This is the action. Based on the action, it will execute some logic. will update the state. When state is updated, the subscriber again will be called. So who is the subscriber? So the subscriber is to-do list component. In to-do list component, you can see it is updated. Do you see?
Yes, sir.
If we think about add to do, what are we doing in add to do? Add to do. No need to explain HTML. There is a input box and there is a button. On click of the button, this function is getting called. This function is calling add to do action creator by passing the text. We'll get one action object and dispatching that action object. Dispatching that action object. When this is dispatched, it goes to reducer. In reducer, if you want me to show you, let me type to do 3. On click of add, it will go to add to do component. Add to do is calling add to do is calling the action creator. From action creator, it will come to this. This is action object. Action object has type and payload. This will be dispatched. This action will go to reducer. In reducer, state has two data. This is the action. Because of this action, it will go to add to do section. Add to do is creating a new to do object and inserting the data to the existing array. After this, the subscriber will be called again. Subscriber is nothing but to do list. So to do list will be called again. In to do list, you will see 3. Is it clear? Now, how many components can be the subscriber of that store? Hmm?
There can be any
Number.
component whoever needs it, they can subscribe.
Yeah, anyone can subscribe and anyone can trigger action, right?
Yes.
So where is the data maintained? Is it maintained in a component, in a service?
No.
Yes, globally
It
maintained,
is
sir.
yeah,
Sir,
it's meant.
like you said,
Hmm.
like for the subscriptions, we use some keyword you mentioned,
Mm,
selector to subscribe a slice of the store.
okay, okay, okay. To do list component.ts. We can say this is selector. From store, I want only to do reducer information.
Yes.
This is selector.
Which
We
one
are
is selector?
selecting all. We are only selecting to do reducer data.
Okay, okay, okay. So no keyword like no use selector, no keyword we need
Mm,
to write. Only
no, 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 no.
okay, okay.
So one quick question here.
Huh.
It's not specific to module as well, right? I mean, from any module, this
Any
store is,
module.
I mean, project specific.
Yes.
Okay.
So NgRx is good or NgRx 2 came something, no? Or some new version store?
Is it?
Not sure. Something-
Hmm. Did you get it? Any question you have, please ask.
Not on this. But last day that double question mark, I also want to know that what was that.
Oh, okay. Okay. I got it. Question mark dot and double question mark, right?
So now dot we know optional checking that one maybe.
Yeah. So let me explain both of them. This is called optional optional chaining. What is this optional chaining? Suppose you have a variable let or var response is equal to, you are making a call to API and you are expecting one object. So when you expect one object, it can be anything. It can be one object with full of data. It can be null. It can be undefined. Okay. So it can be anything. Sometimes it will be one object with full of data. Sometimes it will be null. When you say console.log response and the response is user response dot address dot city, there will be error. So sometimes this object contains address and city. Sometimes it doesn't. So when you print like this, it will throw error. And if you're trying to access this in HTML also, it will throw error. Now, when we say response question mark dot address question mark dot city, this is called optional chaining. Optional chaining means if it is there, print. If it is not there, don't print error. So there is one extra check. So this will not print any error. If it is not there, it will ignore, but there is no console error at least. So we are indirectly saying in response object, check if address is there. In address, check if city is there. Is it clear? So when you are not sure about one object structure, when you are accessing that object, make sure you use optional chaining. Heavily using optional chaining will also uh, will degrade the performance. So don't use it heavily. Don't say like A dot B dot C dot D. No, this is not at all recommended. One or two level is fine. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. And it's nothing extra in Angular. It's it's from JavaScript only. So you can use it with functions also. Any object dot property. So you can see adventure has name and cat. Cat has name. If you write adventure dot dog dot name, it will throw error if you don't use optional chaining. Don't use heavily. Suppose this method you are expecting, sometimes it can be null. Better you use this. If this method is there, call. If it is not there, don't call. Yeah. The other one is this one, knowledge coalescing operator. what it does, it is mainly used for or kind of operation. For or kind of operation, we use it. Yeah, what it does, it returns its right hand side operand when its left hand side is null or undefined. If the left hand side is undefined or null, it returns right hand side. If left hand side has some value, it will return the left hand side value. So if you write like this, const foo equal to null or default string, what will be given to foo? Hmm?
Default string. Default string.
If if I write var a equal to null hello, what is a value?
Hello.
A value is hello, right?
Yes.
If I write undefined, what is a value?
Still hello.
Still hello. If I write false hello,
Still it should be hello.
Hello. Hello.
it is false. Only for undefined and null check it is used.
Oh.
Sanjay, one question.
Uh-huh.
What is meaning by double question mark or dot question mark? Here
Double
we
question mark and question
dot.
mark dot, right?
Yes, like this. Or dot
Y-
question mark. I didn't remember.
Yeah, this question mark dot is optional chaining. Optional chaining. Whenever you are playing with object properties, if that property is not there, let's say you have a variable var user. Your user object, your user object is having only name Sachin. Can you print user dot name?
Yes.
Can you print user dot address dot city?
No.
No.
It will throw error directly, huh?
Yes.
It will throw error. If you want to avoid this error, use this. Okay.
So this Nalis operator, double question mark, we can simply write if A, then it will also check, right? Null and undefined, empty, all things.
No, that will not check only null undefined. See, var a equal to var a equal to forget var a equal to null, var b is equal to a or hello, console.log b. What is b value?
Equal to hello.
B value is hello. I'll change it to undefined. What is b value?
Acha.
Tell me, come on.
A is undefined, right? So undefined, no hello, hello.
Hello. A value is 0.
This time A is having still hello.
Zero
Still
one.
hello. No, no, hello.
Zero, I think.
No, hello. There is a difference between this and that. Or means it will check all the false values. 0 is also a false value. So
Correct.
hello
That's
will
how
be
it would,
printed.
yeah.
Okay.
If it is false also, it will print hello only.
And
Correct.
If it is empty string, it will still print hello
Hmm.
because all these are falsy values. If any falsy value comes here, ignore that and
Yes.
use the second value, right?
Yeah.
Any falsy value. But when you use this, It is not checking any false values. It is checking only undefined or null.
Only undefined or none?
If a
Only.
value is undefined or null, take second value. If a value is not undefined, not null, take a value. This
It is
time it
not
will be
considering the
empty
empty.
string.
It is not
No,
considering empty.
this is not considering empty. This is not considering zero. This is not
Hmm.
considering false.
Hmm.
They are valid values. Only it ignores is undefined and null.
This
Is
is
it clear?
from year 6 it came.
Not yes 6, maybe yes 2017 or 18.
Oh.
Which yes added. You can check. It's very difficult
Yeah,
to
yeah, that's fine. That's fine, sir.
remember which operator got added in which version.
That's fine. So gradually the year 6, year 7 and other things already year 11 is there. So many things will come. So we should also in 6 months of time revisit the new things.
Yep.
Yeah, in ECMAScript 2020 it got added.
Okay, 11. Okay.
Okay, it means if value is null or undefined, then
If
you will
value
take the
is
second value.
if left hand side is undefined or null, take the second value.
Or else left hand value.
Yes.
And that question mark dot to avoid the error, like right?
Yeah, optional chaining makes it possible to access the nested properties of an object without having an end check at each level. When it was not there, portion.address.zip code. When it was not there, we used to write like this. We
CSS
used to write,
question mark dot.
no, we used to write if portion, then if portion, then if portion dot address, then if portion dot address dot city, then console dot log portion dot address dot city. We used to write a lot of conditions. So that is gone now.
Yes, yes.
Okay, okay.
If portion is there, inside portion if address is there, inside address if city is there, then print city. Sometimes we used to write like this also. If portion and portion dot city, portion dot address and portion dot address dot city, if all these things are true, then do something, right? You might have seen this kind of code.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yep.
Earlier we used to write like this.
Yeah, we can avoid this.
This also came in year 6 only sometime.
After year 6,
Yeah,
don't
after
know the
this.
exact
Leave the
version.
version. Leave the version. Yeah, sometime it came.
This is also come with
Also
2020.
2020, 2020,
Yeah.
2020 only it came. Okay, okay.
2020.
Could you please share this key link on WhatsApp?
Yeah, but I want you people to go through this example and understand.
Yes, sir.
Okay, that is all from my end for today. Tomorrow we will connect and I will be happy to answer any kind of questions that you have. If
Okay.
you feel any materials or anything is not said with you, just let me know. You need any question, any help, just let me know tomorrow.
Yes, sir.
Let's connect tomorrow.
Okay, you mean today's is last session, right? From
Yeah, topic
tomorrow.
topic wise we are done.
So okay,
Concept
we'll,
wise we are done.
okay, we'll discuss on questions tomorrow, right?
We'll discuss few questions. Or
Okay,
if you want me to discuss something, I will be happy to discuss that.
okay. Uh, just one question, guys.
Ha
If
ha.
you give the interviews, could you please share the interview questions which asked on Angular on WhatsApp? That will be helpful to others.
Yeah, the WhatsApp group will be active forever. So
Yes,
whoever is attending interviews, please collect the questions and post it in the WhatsApp group.
Sure, sure.
yes.
Anyway, I will be sharing the most asked questions, but interview is always interview. Every time you will get new questions,
Absolutely.
right?
We'll do that. We'll make that group active always.
Yeah.
Yes.
So one off topic, sir, like this batch will be ending maybe this week. So uh, when you will be starting your node? I mean, approximate.
Node.js, na?
Yes. Just asking out of
Ha
curiosity, not
ha
any
ha.
such particular time I'm
Yeah,
asking.
I got it. I got it. No problem.
Recording stopped.
So I have already informed Naresh IT they can start a batch anytime.
They may have started
I
with
feel
Akash some new batch one day back maybe.
looks like they
So
have
Akash's
recently
previous
started.
node is finished. They have started in the between of our class.
No, it will be done in 2 3 days. That is 8 to 9, and this batch is 7 to 8 in the morning.
Okay.
I don't think I will be getting Node.js batch in near future. So if you want to go with this batch, you can go.
Yours
My
Node.js will be
Node.js
not there. At least 1 month of time also you will not get.
minimum 1 month. That's what I think. I think
Okay.
minimum 1 month it will.
Yeah, that is fine. I'll wait for that.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Fine then.
But please do notify me what the
I'll do that. I'll do that.
do that.
Do we have Docker batches? Isn't
Yeah, there is a
We have
Docker batch also, maybe.
Docker batch. Oh, today only they removed the advertisement. It was there.
Yeah.
it? Okay.
If you want to join, just reach out to the admin. They will share you the previous classes recording. If you want to start from the beginning, wait. Every 15 days they start.
Okay.
Maybe Node also in next 15 days also maybe a probability it can be
No,
also.
Node.js they start once in a month. I know that.
Okay.
So you will not get those many inquiries for Node.js the way we get
Hmm.
for React.
React.
Yeah,
Yeah.
React Angular, you will
Docker.
get more inquiries
Yeah.
than
Yeah.
Node.js.
Correct. No, it's just maybe in a month, so definitely it will start. But please make sure next time you will take that step.
I'll do that. Huh?
Yes.
When are you taking the GitHub session?
So I'm done. Now you people have to drive me. My plan is done.
So we
Okay,
need to make
so
plan and tell sir what to do.
Uh,
so let's do it today, tomorrow then in GitHub.
yeah. So
Will
my
be
plan
great.
is done. Now whatever you people ask, only those things I'm going to discuss.
GitHub and VS Code shortcuts of VS Code.
Yeah, I'll do that. Hmm. Let's connect tomorrow then.
Yes, sir.
Okay, cool.
Sir, thank you, sir. Good
Okay,
night.
Thank
thank
you
you.
so
Good
much, sir.
night.
Yeah, good
See you
night.
tomorrow.
Bye.